Today on the CTV News at 5, rallying to save the Carmangay Care Centre. Plus,
it's been a tough journey. It started in October when I was diagnosed.
A big boost for the Jack 80 Cancer Centre as 2 new oncologists are hired. And the finish line for the Alberta Summer Games.
CTV News with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. The community of Carmangay is hoping that a public rally will help to keep their continuing care centre open. Our Alicia Fieldberg was at that public rally this afternoon and will have the story for us in just a couple of moments. But first, Alberta Health Services is celebrating the full opening of a new model in cancer treatment. The Jack 80 Cancer Centre is a prototype of a full-service cancer centre. And today, they proudly announced the addition of 2 new medical oncologists, Dr. Malcolm Brigden and Dr. Faraja El-Jahani. The pair were heavily recruited by the hospital to round out their staff. The centre has been searching for a replacement for the recently departed Dr. Holland. With more on what it means for patients in southern Alberta, here's CTV's Daryl Rummold.
This is a milestone day for Betty Jean Scott. Today, she completed her last cancer treatment at the Jack 80 Cancer Centre. But this media conference isn't for her.
You know, it's been a tough journey. It started in October when I was diagnosed, and I've had concurrent chemo and radiation in November and December, surgery the end of February, and preventive chemo since April.
She was diagnosed with colon cancer and has been fighting it aggressively ever since. No, this media call is to announce that more people have joined in the fight against cancer. Alberta Health Services announcing the hiring of not 1 but 2 medical oncologists.
I was so impressed with the team there, the enthusiasm, the friendliness of the patients and the community itself.
That's no small feat. Only 15 to 18 are trained in Canada each year.
The fact that we're able to recruit 2 is phenomenal, and we had identified having 2 physicians as being the minimum. That's what we needed to really have this be functional, so we are very pleased.
Alberta Health Services is going ahead with plans to open a similar facility next year in Red Deer, with one to follow in Grande Prairie in the years to come. They say the hope is that 92% of patients can be treated within 100 kilometers of where they live.
And we're now, in September, going to be able to offer to what we believe is 80% of the patients in the South Zone the ability to have their entire cancer treatment planned and delivered in Lethbridge rather than having to go to Calgary.
It's meant the world, you know, to be able to do that. People have told me how positive I've been throughout the whole course of it, and I don't think I could have been anywhere near as positive if I'd had to go up to Calgary.
A few hundred kilometers making a world of difference, giving a little peace of mind in a far from peaceful situation. Daryl Rummold, CTV News, Lethbridge.
Lethbridge is the first site in Alberta to provide radiation therapy outside of Calgary or Edmonton. And in the past year, they've treated over 400 radiation patients and over 600 chemotherapy patients from across southern Alberta. To our first look at the forecast with Dory Rossiter, and a bit of a break in the temperatures, Dory, but it's still looking really nice for the next week, the next 10 days.
Yeah, and actually our break is kind of Thursday when we hit the low 20s, but even today we got to 30 degrees, but our humidity level is much lower than when it was a week ago, so it's much more comfortable at 30 degrees. Now, having said that, there are some active weather that we are watching in Alberta, more through the central areas, kind of an angle from the northwest to the southeast, and I'll tell you about those details coming up in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Dory. One man is dead and another is in a Calgary hospital after a boating accident at the Oldman Dam. A third man was treated in hospital and released. Pincher Creek RCMP say the men were out on the water Sunday when their Sky Supreme motorboat made a sharp turn and then ran into the bank of the dam. One of the men was able to flag down a passing boat for help. Police say that alcohol and speed were factors. No names have been released. And a man was also killed after being hit by a semi while walking down the Trans-Canada Highway. It happened just east of Medicine Hat shortly after 4 a.m. Saturday morning. The victim's name hasn't been released and charges are not expected against the driver of the semi. Lethbridge Regional Police are still trying to find out who assaulted a man in the Coolies last week. Last Wednesday, a group of joggers found a 25-year-old man lying in the grass along Coalbanks Trail off Scenic Drive. He had serious head injuries, and police say he was likely likely lying there for quite some time. Officers now have had a chance to speak to the man, but they say he wasn't able to give them many details about how he got injured. The victim has been released from hospital and continues now to recover at home. Police say they're continuing to investigate, but don't expect to release any more information unless there are some big developments in the case. The University of Lethbridge is reminding computer users to keep their login information private after one of their web servers was hacked over the weekend. On Saturday, someone gained access to the server containing documents on the U of L's people, classes, files, and research folders. The services were impacted for about 15 minutes after the server was removed from the network. IT Services reviewed the breach and believes that no user data was compromised, but they're reminding users to never share their login and password information. Most of the services have returned to normal, but if you need to access your personal website, you must contact the IT's Solutions Center. The U of L is encouraging everyone to review any personal information stored on their P drive and to make sure that no unauthorized activity has been happening. Expect delays on one of Lethbridge's main roadways. Paving is set to begin tomorrow on Whoop-Up Drive between University Drive up to Jerry Potts Boulevard. Westbound lanes will be closed tomorrow, and then eastbound lanes will be closed on Wednesday. City crews say that weather permitting, things should return to normal on Thursday. Well, Cardston residents are still cleaning up after baseball-sized hail damaged vehicles and buildings on Thursday night. The hail has forced some companies to close for a few days, but stormed up a lot of business for others. Staff of Southern Alberta tow truck companies are working overtime transporting vehicles that are too damaged to be safely driven. Home repair companies are also busy giving estimates on roofs, windows, and solariums. The roofing company we spoke to says nearly 750 of the 800 homes in Cardston are impacted. Most residents believe that insurance will cover the damage. Well, the province has finally released a report completed 6 years ago that recommends that at least $300 million should be spent to protect 54 Alberta communities from flood damage. Alberta, the government, commissioned the report following floods in southern Alberta back in 2005 that killed 3 people and caused more than $400 million in damages. Massive flooding hits the communities of Pitcher Creek and High River particularly hard in June of 2005. Municipal Affairs Minister Doug Griffiths says he isn't sure why the report wasn't released earlier and said that the government is now sorting out how many of its 18 recommendations have been acted on. The report was submitted to the government back in November of 2006. You may recall that was just weeks after former Premier Ralph Klein announced his plan to resign after 14 years in office. The report included community feedback from public meetings held to discuss flooding concerns, including meetings from Lethbridge, Milk River, Medicine Hat, Pincher Creek, Cardston, as well as the Crow's Nest Pass. Well, Lethbridge is winning some big praise as the host of the Alberta Summer Games. The games wrapped up with the closing ceremony Sunday. Calgary Zone 3 took the trophy for the most medals, but people in Lethbridge feel like winners from the success of the event. Organizers say athletes were saying they had so much fun, they didn't want to go home. More than 2,500 Alberta athletes from ages 11 to 17 took part in the 4-day sporting and cultural event. Organizers say the positive feedback is coming from all sources.
Our sponsors, the people that fund it, the city, the province, they were thrilled with the show that we put on. Coaches said best games they've ever been to. I think with the resources that we have in our city, the university, the college, the deep volunteer base, all that just made sure we brought an excellent event.
And the Alberta Summer Games brought in about $4.5 million to the city of Lethbridge. To the Olympics now, where a row over rows of empty seats at many Olympic venues has London organizers calling in the military and school teachers to fill some of the seats.
I mean, this is not unfamiliar in the preliminary rounds, and I'm not sure that naming and shaming is what we're into at the moment.
London Olympic organizers are going to international federations now to reclaim unused tickets that belong to sponsors. The tickets have become a bit of an embarrassment because of swaths of empty seats at several venues through the first few days. The reclaimed tickets will be sold daily on Ticketmaster, but only to British residents. Organizers say with more than 10,000 athletes to serve and the enormous demand for tickets, they are making adjustments as issues arise. Now, for the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to join us for all of your local news, weather, and sports. sports at 6:30. And you can also catch us online through our CTV Lethbridge Facebook page or on Twitter. A youth center named after a murdered Brooks teenager is now getting a makeover. Since opening 3 years ago, Ashton's Place has become a busy place for young people. The center officially opened its doors to the public back in 2009. It's named after 16-year-old Ashton Moen, who before her death talked to her family about the need for a safe place for young people to hang out. In June of 2006, the teen failed to show up for work. Her body was found a few weeks later. The community rallied to raise the money to open the center, and now it's receiving a $300,000 Canada Homelessness Strategy Grant. The money will help upgrade and renovate the building to create more space for young people needing a place to stay.
What we're hoping to provide to these youth is a transition from being stuck in that spot that they just can't get out of, needing housing, employment, financial assistance, giving them the resources that they need, whether that be anything from referring them to counseling for personal reasons, addictions, you name it, anything we can provide them in terms of resources and a place that they can lay their head at night and not have to worry about shelter.
The grand reopening will take place on August the 8th at 11:30 a.m. Coming up after the break, we're going to take you to Carmangay and show you that community's rally to save their care center. First, though, a look at how the markets kicked off the week.